kind of an SOS from the mayor of Pawtucket.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Not a desperate one, I think a deft one, yet one that was executed yesterday, and for some it seems like it's misunderstood. I don't think you had to be a rocket scientist to figure out exactly what was going on in the city of Pawtucket yesterday, and we're going to see if we can get some answers from the mayor, who is newly reelected and still, I'm sure, battle weary, because the city has been under duress. Nice to have you on this Thursday evening. Let me just run this headline and this package, and I think you'll get the basis if you missed some of the news cycle yesterday. Here's what went on.
One by one, Pawtucket has seen the loss of Memorial Hospital, the Pawsox, and now local leaders are worried toy giant Hasbro is next.
We urgently need the governor's leadership and that of the General Assembly to prevent another economic loss for our community.
Pawtucket Mayor Donald Grebien is calling for the state to step in, aiming to prevent job loss and another hit to his city's psyche.
We need a comprehensive, unified commitment, a dedication of resources, creative thinking, and strong statewide leadership.
Governor Gina Raimondo's press secretary tells Eyewitness News she's been a tireless advocate for the Blackstone Valley, adding Hasbro has been a Rhode Island staple for almost 100 years. Governor Raimondo is committed to working with Hasbro to ensure the company continues to grow and thrive in our state. Hasbro tells us they are debating the future of their Pawtucket headquarters, a spokeswoman saying we are in the process of evaluating several options for contemporizing our corporate headquarters, including finding a new corporate campus in the vicinity of our current headquarters.
I just want to make sure that we all get at the same table, having the same conversations. Like I said, if nothing else I learned from the Pawsox is we need to be together, right? Not in our silos.
Yeah, right? Welcome, congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you very much, and excited about another 2 years, I think.
It is every 2 years for you.
Yes, every 2 years.
So, you know, it's funny, we had a referendum in Cumberland that passed, I live in Cumberland, that actually extended the mayoralty from 2 to 4 years, which I think is a terrible mistake for local management. And Pawtucket's a major city in the context of Rhode Island. Cumberland is not, but I'm sure it's a headache to continually have to keep your eye on re-election. At the same time, there's a connectivity to the constituency.
There's that balance.
You can't get away,
right?
You know.
And I said, Dan, fortunately, you know, I'm in my 8th year, so technically, if you look at it, if it would have been a 4-year term, it's 2 4-year terms. But you're right. You know, there's the balance of making sure you're out there. My personality is my personality, so I'm always out there anyway. But there is that balance because you want to have the people, local people, have access to their government, whether it's their mayor and council. So 2 years, selfishly, sure, I'd love to have a 4-year term, right? But it does keep you more connected.
All right, so you win re-election handily. The governor does too. And the day after the election, you call everybody together. I thought you were pretty clear without being specific. And that's the difference. There's a clear, hey, we can't let this one slap pious, or I'm not going to go down watching.
Yep.
Seems to me, right?
Yeah.
What? Give me, before we get into the strategies,
yep.
What are the facts? What do you know about what Hasbro has said about its potential plans, other than the statement?
That's pretty much it. That's what they've been saying, even when we've met with them over the last year. We've been hearing, I say the rumors, and this is, you know, the speculation out there is that, you know, there was the stories that had broken about they might be going to Providence. I think the building, how come I can't think, the Superman building might be one. Yeah, there was all these stories out there, right? We know that Hasbro is dedicated to Pawtucket. They're a great company. We want to keep them there.
I think that could be the Journal building down there.
Absolutely. They could go anywhere, right? Yeah. But they need to stay in Pawtucket, right?
Well, the sales force is in downtown.
Right. They've moved, I think, 80 jobs down there.
Part of the sales force, at least.
There's about 650 people from the entertainment area and the marketing, and their corporate headquarters are still split between the two. So it really becomes about what are their needs. The one thing that's clear is they are going through a change as a company, as a global company, and they're also looking at the conditions or the building, the conditions of the building that they're in. And we know that they're going to have to either do renovations or relocate. And they haven't chosen either one, right? So they're looking at what their next model is. And this is always hard because over the last year, they're a private company. I want to balance and respect them, and I do, coming from private industry. You know, they're not like us. They don't talk about everything. They have their shareholders. But we need to figure out what we can do to support them, to keep them here. And I'm not sure what those needs are. So what I really know is what I'm sharing with you, what their statement is. They are rethinking and looking at repositioning. And what this was about yesterday for me is being loud and clear that we want to be here. We want them to know that we're going to be supportive of them. I need the state support, you know, and both the governor and the General Assembly and Commerce. I cannot lose, you know, that 600 to 1,200 because they have 2 buildings, jobs. That's an impact to our community, just like the impact was for Memorial Hospital. And
how many Hasbro employees actually live in the city?
I should have gone back today, but my last data, I think, is about 50% of their employees now. They have 600 and 650 in that Pawtucket plant that we're talking about, but then on the Pawtucket and East Providence line, there's 300 to 400. And what really elevated this, Dan, was a couple weeks ago when one of the papers or news outlets, media outlets, had announced that they were doing layoffs. And now we're sitting there saying, okay, what does this really mean? What's in their psyche? And we want to try to make sure that they know that we're a partner.
Okay. In general, what does your instinct tell you what government on a municipal or statewide level can do?
So first we have to understand their needs. One of the things that I believe is their needs, they're that very progressive millennial group, right? They're the thinkers. They change their identity every second, and they've got people in there looking at what their strategies are. So it becomes that entertainment district. We've heard that from them. They love the location, right? And they want to keep their employees energized, thinking, and activity. I love my community and the community I represent, right? But when they are there, there's not a lot around it. Some small business, right? So how do we make it more of the new style, as we call it, a life center?
Yeah, listen, Newport Avenue is a royal pain in Tuckus.
Right.
It's a 20. I mean, you're going to get a ticket at 25 miles per hour. I mean, your cops are like the speeding Nazis, and I love the police, but I mean, everybody knows slow down there. It's a stop and go, very high traffic, not a very pedestrian area. I mean, the park is nice, you know, if you get over there, but it's so. So
what we've talked about, right, is, I'll give you an example. Capianato is doing a development over further down Newport Avenue, right, but it takes them away from the highway. So what they need, what their needs are, and a lot of it is assumption on our part because they've shared some things but not everything, is they want quick accessibility, right? They want commuter rail, which we're going to have, right? If they were to stay on Newport Avenue, we could build a life center around that. It becomes designing and controlling the traffic lighting. There are things that we can do, right, to give them their access, right? They're a big fish in a very little pond in Pawtucket, and that's important to us. Like I said, you know, there's over 1,000 jobs collectively. We wanted to make sure that we wanted them to know that we're here for them. I can't do it alone, any local government. I can't do it without the state support. Again, understanding what they need would be one thing, but there are a lot of things that we can do.
By the way, because I can feel it on that side of the television. When I say traffic Nazis, it's the soup Nazi joke, the Seinfeld joke. I don't consider the Pawtucket police to be Nazis. But they're tough, and the enforcement down there is pretty strict, and it's a slow-moving, congested area.
It is.
Obviously, you've got to do some things on a programmatic basis. All right. So that's what the city can do. What can the state do? And, of course, the big question is the mission of the state to save Hasbro in Rhode Island or in Pawtucket? We'll come back and talk about that. Stay with us. Can you confirm the number of times you, the Senate President, the House Speaker, the Mayor, and Pawtucket Red Sox officials got together in a room to try to make this deal happen?
I have no idea. What I can tell you is I personally spent hundreds of hours on this, negotiating with all of those parties, and my Commerce Secretary spent, 10 times times that. So
when we
I don't
claim
know.
leadership, all the leadership never got in the same room with the players.
True. That is not true. I had them in my office on more than one occasion.
The Speaker, the
Yes.
Senate President,
Yes.
you, the
And Larry
Pawtuckets,
Grebien.
the mayor, to put a deal together.
Yes, absolutely.
So you just
More
said you
than
didn't remember, and now I'm asking you
said
again.
a number of times. I don't know if it was 1 or 2 or 5, but
The mayor just told me it never happened.
that isn't true. I specifically remember sitting at my desk.
We're back on.
Okay.
That was your reaction to that, and I don't play that to antagonize. I play that to emphasize a point. You made the point in the package at the press conference yesterday that you've learned some lessons from the Pawtucket situation, and getting everybody in the same room is vital.
Yep.
Are you confident that? Well, let me ask you this. It seems to me, unless I missed the chronology of events in the last news cycle, that press conference yesterday accelerated an appointment for a get-together next week.
Yeah.
Did I misread that?
No, and I want to be clear because the governor has been very committed to Pawtucket. We've had our conversations, and we've all learned, and we've all grown, right? And it's true leadership, and sometimes we were talking about his personalities. But at the end of the day, I had conversations with her about my concern about what we're hearing about Hasbro. She is committed, and Commerce has been working with us. So we needed to get Hasbro with us as well and try to get on the same. They're a private entity, right? And it's hard. They don't want to be talking. They don't want to be involved with government. They just want to
publicly held business.
Absolutely,
right.
But as in your absolutely, they want to be functional, right? They want to do their job.
So are you meeting with the CEO?
Yeah. Well, I don't know who's in me. So I had a conversation yesterday with the Vice President, Tom Courtney, good guy, and he made his position clear.
Which was what?
They're concerned about the messaging, right? Because they're concerned about their image, and they should be, right? And this is clearly not about Hasbro.
Who's messaging, theirs or yours?
Both. Right, they were concerned about where it was going to go.
So you called the press conference, and they go, "Oh my God!"
Well, we called the press conference, and we sent out notifications to them, to the governor, because that's how I play. It's like being fair and transparent, right? So we had a conversation. The commitment came to have a meeting. So we have the letters that are going out today to get everybody in the room. Dylan Zalazzo, who's my director of administration, has reached out to the governor's office. I've had conversations with the governor, not after yesterday, but prior to the Speaker's office and to the Senate President's office. And what I don't want to happen is exactly what you just showed. I want to make sure that we're doing this, because sometimes I do it myself with working with the council. Sometimes I forget to share things. Not intentional, but we're busy. I just want to make sure that doesn't happen and we're all in this together.
All right. Your goal for this get-together is what? Clarity?
To understand from Hasbro what they need, if there's need at all, what they are going to do, and then to make sure that we're all united, that they stay here, and if it means building up around that facility or another facility.
So you're going to do what do you guys need? First of all, what is your status? What do you guys need?
Yep.
State, what do you guys need? Who leads this meeting, by the way?
It depends, right? I mean, I see me as the facilitator.
Yeah, because you
right?
called it,
right?
Or you put the pressure on.
But realistically, there's only so much that I can do as the mayor, right? I have so much control and so many, if you will, budgetary options. The state has much more to do, right? We've seen all the investment that's happened in Providence. And while it's great strategy, and the governor, you know, I say this all the time, supportive, and I think her economic policies are paying off. We need to focus in on over here and keep what we have too, and how do we ensure that? So I think the first thing is understanding collectively with Commerce and our Commerce Director and locally what the needs are.
What's going to happen here? This is going to be interesting. If I'm the governor, I rightly keep the state as a priority.
Absolutely, and she should.
So if there's just a shuffle down 95 3 miles, and they're already partly there, I don't know exactly what's at stake for the governor, fresh off a re-election,
Mm-hmm.
Pawtucket getting short shrift. What's her calculus? What pain will she experience not having a heavy hand in trying to keep Hasbro in Pawtucket if she can?
Fair point, and the answer is I'm not sure, right? But it's my job, right, in Pawtucket, to make sure that she understands that it is going to hurt our community, right? And it is that relocation would be devastating.
Well, she'd have to have rocks in her head not to understand it's going to hurt the community and that it's going to be a double blow. Well, look, headlines. Memorial Hospital has been a tough situation for you, not under your control. The Paw Sox blowing out. Listen, I don't do this with elected officials by nature. You couldn't have done any more on the Paw Sox thing. And what you're doing here is trying to get ahead of a situation with not a lot of power and not a lot of control.
You're absolutely right.
So
let's use the example, right? What I don't want to do is I don't want to be reactive. I want to be proactive. We're reactive. We're trying now to work with Commerce on McCoy Stadium. And we're trying to figure out what we're going to be in 2 years, whether it's renovation, it's a knockdown rebuild, whatever that is, right? I'm sitting here as the leader of the community.
Apex. You need an Apex solution.
Absolutely.
The location where the McCoy Stadium was supposed to be.
Right. And this is the value, right? I'm not trying to overplay and overconfidence, but we're the 4th largest city. We're the biggest city in the Blackstone Valley, right? If I go, so do a lot of other communities go, or the community goes. I need the governor to realize that, and I believe she does, right? And focus in. So the leverage should be, and I would, if it were me in her shoes, I'm going to try to keep them here. If they say they don't want to be there and that there's no other option, then it becomes a different conversation.
Yeah, see, this is where you and I were preaching to the choir back then, but this is why McCoy was so devastating and the Paw Sox move. Because who might have had naming rights for the stadium? The legendary, iconic company, Hasbro. Hasbro Park at Slater Mill, whatever. Yep. A river walk around it, moving offices in and around, making all of this mecca that Pawtucket could and should have been slipped through your fingers because of the lack of leadership and vision. Now, and this phony baloney from the speaker and even from the governor, well, the people in Worcester stole it. Yeah, Worcester seized the moment and might have overextended themselves, but they had to do that to anyway,
compete, if you will.
This has got to be, you must lie awake at night going, I can't believe I got to do this, and I don't know what sizzle I can bring to this other than what? Can you make Hasbro part of the redevelopment idea that you have down there anyway? Can you make Hasbro the replacement for Apex? Can you do any of that?
So first, Apex is a little different because it's still privately
You're
owned.
still,
right?
and you're going to be eminent domain sometime, right?
Council just moved last night on the redevelopment project, right? This first step, right? So we have other properties. We have a lot of acreage around where the TOD is, commuter rail was going to be, right, in 2 years. We have development on the waterfront, right? But in order for, and this is what we need to understand from Hasbro, is we believe that every other major company like a Hasbro wants that life center. So I could put it in any one of those locations, right? But we want to make sure that when they move, or if they move, that I grow around, there's growth around them. I can't do it without the support of the state. I can't do it without those investments from the community, just like they've done in those other, in Pawtucket, just like they've done in Providence or other communities. That becomes my need, if you will, or the community's need from the state.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about the timing of yesterday. Would this have been more effective prior to the election? I'm not sure. Stay with us. So again, that's Hasbro's perspective. I think they're being candid in the process of evaluating several options for contemporizing our corporate headquarters. And why not? I mean, they're an idea company anyway. They got to be, they got to be on the sizzle side of media and this and that and the other thing. And they've been pretty much good neighbors in this state, so they have a right to flex their elbows and figure out what they want to do. And they're an interesting company because they're going through a lot of changes in media. They just had the downsizing. There are a lot of long-time employees at Hasbro that have been and will continue to be nervous. They hire millennials out the wazoo now. It's a company in flux, no doubt. This issue is in flux. It has been well established that they have been looking to do some different things. Tell me why this presser yesterday happened the day after the election rather than before.
Because we didn't want it to become, we wanted to refocus in on this, right? If it became part of political process or the election process, it was going to get lost, right? I wanted to show and be honest that it was true of the needs we have. I didn't want it to get into that. I didn't want people to think that I was just trying to leverage for my opponent or I was trying to leverage somebody else. I didn't want it to become that way. So it was strategic in the time.
Yeah, one could say if you'd put it out early, you know, 6 weeks in front of the election for the governor, made it a big sticking point, you know, Fung and Trillo could have come running, forced the issue, created some heat in the kitchen. Maybe that turns out to your benefit. I think your calculus was correct. I think this is about the business of managing as opposed to the business of politicking. Because the politicking ends up being very empty.
Yep.
And it does affect the disposition of people in a boardroom when they're finally getting down to the nuts and the bolts. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, I see why you did that. I think it's probably a better call. By the way, you grabbed the news cycle.
Yeah.
Right. So people are talking about this thing now.
And the one I say the downside is, right, and we were talking about Hasbro being in an influx, right, is I don't want it to ruin their credibility, right? They're a great organization. They're a great company to work for, right? And so the uncertainty, right? And that's what the uncertainty from us, for me to protect the city and what's best for my residents. So you want to balance that out. And so, you know, we've had conversations. We need to move this forward for everybody, and we need to be all at the same table.
The one thing that still sticks with me about a post-election thing, I mean, there's a damned if you do, damned if you don't aspect to this, sort of, in the sense that I always worry about statewide officials when they get elected and now they've got 4 years where their accountability is only really in executing, not in re-election. Mm-hmm. So she has become a political animal. And she will do whatever she can to calculate keeping Hasbro here, rightfully, but where the political hit comes most. And I just wonder, and this will be our last thought, what is the political power of Pawtucket, and what is your juice, and how will your approach affect keeping it so that if Hasbro scoots, even down 95, she feels the hurt?
It's not about hurt. I think she realizes the importance. She's committed to Pawtucket and the commuter rail and the TOD, the transitory development, right? She's committed to that, right? She's had conversation with me. She's committed to the growth of the Blackstone Valley, right? Now it's like, okay, calling you on that. I think that at the end of the day, right, it's the value is going to be there. If Hasbro puts themselves in a position and they don't want to do this, that's one discussion, right? But I don't think they want to be there either. They realize that they've made their, they've grown as a company here, and there's been a lot of value and partnership. So I think it's getting everybody at the table.
Well, we haven't had any time to talk about what do you do about McCoy. We'll leave that to the next conversation because I hope, for the city's sake, that we're not having a double conversation on what do you do now. What do you do to replace McCoy? What do you do to replace Hasbro? I think the city deserves a better break. But you know what? Hopefully it's not raining and pouring at the same time, right? Mayor, appreciate your candor.
Thank you very much.
So we'll come back with a final thought on this and tell you what's up tomorrow night when we return. Stay with us. I told you then, I'm going to tell you again, losing McCoy Stadium and the Paw Sox had a ripple effect well past, you know, 9 innings of baseball. And it will impact the city of Pawtucket and the state for a long time. It really will. And this is another one of those things, because when the city of Pawtucket feels like it's lost its, you know, its excitement and the things that could be packaged around a Hasbro, it puts them in a deficit position. But maybe they'll excite their way out of this one. This is going to be a dandy public-private partnership equation for the state and for the city. Pay attention to it. We'll see you on the radio at 3 tomorrow on WPRO. Thanks for watching. Good night.